Welcome, James, to the Wholesome Crypto Podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, it's you're working a lot on Octant, and I see you pushing that out and helping the public goods arena, which is much needed in crypto. But the whole thing that I want to know about in crypto is you, James. And the first thing I want to know is, where were you when you even first heard about like Bitcoin or Ethereum, anything about crypto?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So, uh, around 2009, I moved to Silicon Valley, and I was going to school there, but also teaching yoga and meditation for quite a long time. And um, being that I wasn't making the most money teaching yoga and meditation, especially earlier on, I had a bunch of roommates, and one of those roommates was a very interesting character, and he was the one who kind of exposed me to crypto in general. But the funny story about that was the way I found out about Ethereum was he had came home flustered one day after spending the day on Stanford's campus, and he was really angry as he was walking up the stairs, and I asked him why, and he said he got into a giant shouting match with a Stanford economics professor right in the middle of campus about
Wow.
how the Stanford economics professor was telling him how Bitcoin and Ethereum was a waste of time. It was never going to amount to anything. That crypto in general was just a giant joke. And he took that really personally, I guess, and got really flustered with it. And so when he was telling me this story, I'd obviously heard of Bitcoin. This was back in 2014, I think. And so I'd never heard of Ethereum though. So this is obviously when Ethereum was really, was a really new idea. And he started taking me down the rabbit hole with it, and then, pushed me to buy some, really early on. I think it was only a couple dollars a token at the time. So yeah, that's how I first got introduced to I guess the broader crypto ecosystem, or just knowing anything beyond like Bitcoin and Silk Road and all that stuff going on.
So when your friend was trying to explain or taking you down the rabbit hole of Ethereum, were you automatically seeing the light? Like, were you seeing what he was seeing, or were you trying to like steel man the case for the professor and kind of?
Yeah, I saw potential there because by 2014, if you had been following Bitcoin at all, you saw like this massive rise back in, I think it was 2012, before the Mt. Gox issue.
Hmm.
And so I knew there was, I always had the back of my mind, like there was potential there. I just kind of missed the boat, so to speak. And this idea of a supercomputer, or like this upgradability that allowed for smart contracts and just, a much broader sort of potential with crypto in what he was describing to me as Ethereum. That seemed really interesting to me. But I was a yoga and meditation teacher. I wasn't really heavy into the tech, so I didn't quite understand it, but I could tell that there was something there for sure.
Yeah. And so you came from a yoga and meditation background. Did you also have any tech background? Were you also just like interested in tech at that point?
Mm, yeah, I mean, like basic stuff. Like I knew how to build a computer. I had done like basic programming for my major. So, funny story. I actually come from a meteorology and climate science background. So, math and physics were always really interesting to me, especially growing up as a kid on the East Coast, and waking up to feet of snow and not having to go to school for a week. For whatever reason, my inner child just really like gravitated towards that. So that was something that was really interesting to me when I was a lot younger, and so with that came programming in Python and Fortran. Everyone remembers Fortran, but yeah. So beyond just basic uh, data manipulation and making graphs for that field, I wouldn't really call myself a tech guy much at all.
Then, I guess your first experience was just investing into it. But I mean, now we know that you're working in crypto. What was that transition like? You were in college, you're learning about crypto, you're investing, you're seeing your money, hopefully gain and not lose at that time. But what got you into saying, I want to be in crypto full time, or if I could be in full time?
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a really funny story. So I was um, learning more about crypto starting probably around like 2016. After the DAO hack, I realized I don't know if Ethereum's going to make it. Obviously, that was a bad decision in hindsight. Sold my sold my ETH obviously a little prematurely there.
Ugh.
But I was looking around at a lot of different projects, and this one project called Golem really caught my eye. It was one of the first crowdfunding projects before the ICO mania in 2017. And so, just as a community member, I really gravitated towards that project and was one of the most vocal community members there. And along the way, uh, Golem had some hiccups, I guess you could say. And what I was realizing probably about a year or two ago is that a lot of the yoga and meditation that I was teaching, I thought I was like giving this or sharing this practice with a lot of other people, and I was in a sense, but really I think the most important aspect for me was the personal growth that I had received from teaching it. That there was definitely a lot of things that I got out of that as far as leveling up and being in better control of my emotions and how I was like interacting with various relationships. And so I say that because I wasn't the nicest person in that community when I was first interacting, and the leadership at Golem definitely knew who I was on a first name basis. I was a pain in their ass, like a big pain in their ass. And so fast forward to 2021, Golem had gone through this evolution of sorts. They were kind of redefining how the project was going to evolve. There was actually a split to where Golem Factory and Golem Foundation became two separate entities, and I was still a pain in the ass for both sides, I guess you could say. The leadership on Golem Foundation side had actually went and hired a PR and communication agency to, in part, help them with people like me. So this woman who had heard about me went back and read all of these like extremely long-winded posts on Reddit, these long diatribes that I was writing, just like pleading my case about things I thought that they should be changing. And she went back to leadership after reading a lot of this stuff and was like, "Hey, this guy's kind of passionate and he kind of has some points. You guys should
Yeah,
hire him." And
that's smart. That's the right move.
I wish I could have. Yeah. I wish I could have seen the look on Julian's face, who's leading Golem Foundation. I wish I could have seen the look on his face when she first pitched this idea, because I can only imagine the dropping of his face to such a suggestion. Because, like I said, I was a giant pain in their ass. So I don't think they were really keen on the idea at first, but she kept working on him. And as she started to make inroads about them being potentially open to the idea, she came and pitched the idea to me as well. Hey, would you be interested in working for us? And yeah, I mean, it really excited me, like actually being able to go from a community member to being on the inside and maybe being like that voice of the community that had for so long maybe felt like kind of shut out from the conversation, at least in part. Yeah, that really excited me. And so they reluctantly, maybe not reluctantly, but they offered me the opportunity, but they definitely dipped their toe in the water. They just testing it out, so to speak. And so they offered me a part-time opportunity. And over the course of that first year, it started in January, February of 2021. Yeah, I'd done really well. So that. Wait, maybe it was 2022. Sorry, I'm getting my dates mixed up. But
It's crypto.
yeah,
There's no dates.
yeah, right. Time flies, and so yeah, it worked out really well. We got a lot of things done in that first year, and I was also recruiting in Web3 for that first year to kind of make up for income, and also working in another aspect of Web3 that opened my eyes to a lot of things and was really valuable for me at the time. But March of this past year, they were really happy with what they were seeing, and Octant was really needing more attention than what we were giving it previously. So they offered me a full-time role, and yeah, I've been really happy ever since. This has been my dream job. So really excited to be here.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. It's a great story because There's so many times I tell people who want to get into Web3, get into crypto, I'm like, you just have to find a project that you're passionate about and be as active as possible and contribute quality details and information or feedback, constructive feedback to help them realize that they might need someone like you because you're seeing it through a different lens and different perspective. And it looks like it's been a positive sum for Golem, so that's awesome to hear. Uh, but I also have to learn like more about how your yoga and meditation, and then you giving feedback to Golem. Like, were there ever times during your meditations you were thinking, I need to say this in a more lighthearted way or a more constructive way? Or again, I didn't read your posts, but I'm kind of wondering how your spirituality might have helped or not helped things that you have said, or what you've learned from it at least.
Well, the reason I had mentioned all that is because I had a lot of work to do. And so that work was showing itself when I was communicating to these guys about things that I thought needed to change. Like I said, I wasn't doing it in the healthiest of ways. And I think that's what created a lot of the friction early on within the relationship that I had with the team. Regardless if you're right, it's not a welcome. You're not going to be very welcomed if you're an asshole about it. So that was a big learning experience for me, and I think early on, even later on in my practice when I was teaching yoga, I was missing a lot of the subtle stuff that practice really teaches, and a lot of those things tend to revolve around this idea of being right and wrong. Our mind is set up in a way that defines things in this manner when really the definition of being mindful is to be able to understand there's like a wide variety of perspectives to consider, and that it's generally not like an issue of one or the other. There's a spectrum to consider there, and I wasn't really seeing it like that for a long time. And so when you think you're right and you think someone else is wrong, and not being able to communicate that in a healthy way, I wasn't doing myself any favors there. And I can totally understand why they were reluctant to bring me on board, for sure. I probably would have, sitting in this chair now, I probably would have been a little reluctant to bring somebody like me at that time onto the team as well.
That's a great point that you're pointing out right now, is because especially now, like in crypto Twitter, it's such a battle of right and wrong. There is no middle ground of understanding each other. And now that you're again more publicly involved and more vocal, how do you go about handling just your social media in terms of trying to educate people on Golem, on Ethereum, on different blockchains, and kind of also what kind of advice you would give to people who are trying to voice their opinion online, but also not come out so strong-willed and try to get a constructive flow going.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of conversations like this in the background with people from different teams, including Gitcoin. Gitcoin's a prime example of some hypocrisy that I see kind of on the internet right now, especially in crypto Twitter, where you had this issue where they took money from Shell and people were really upset about that. And I see these same people complaining that crypto Twitter isn't a better place. And so it's coming back to this idea of mindfulness, right? Like there's a wide variety of perspective to consider. And there's a saying within different personal growth practices, in that where your attention goes, energy flows. And so I saw a lot of people, in one sense, saying that they wanted this place where they're interacting all the time to be a better place, to be more uplifting, and then at the same token, they're taking easy, cheap shots at Gitcoin for this one thing, when you could be focusing on the fact that they've funded thousands of individuals and projects to the tune of $50+ million, which has resulted in like $29 billion in impact. But we want to focus on the $500,000 from Shell, And in the same token, you're typing all this from a MacBook that was built in a factory that has, nets around it so people can't jump out and kill themselves because the working conditions are so bad, or, the batteries are coming
Yep.
from child mines in Africa. So it's like, guys, like there has to be a broader sort of understanding here, and that you guys are more or less picking winners and losers and being judge and jury without, considering these broader perspectives, that the majority of people from that round in Gitcoin chose to take Shell's money. So like that money then, I think we can all agree, at least in part, went to some positivity. So, going back to the bigger question that you were talking about, how do I deal with all of it? It's work. The spiritual practice that I take in for myself is that any opportunity where I'm noticing something that's upsetting me, that's an opportunity to grow. And so crypto Twitter is a great place to grow if you look at it through that lens, because there's plenty of people who are dishing out, conversations that I would love to bite on, and I do occasionally, every now and then, and it trips me up, it catches me up. But yeah, I think how I approach it is that kind of perspective of like being able to step back, understanding when maybe I'm getting triggered or getting upset about something, and recognizing that not only am I representing myself, I'm also representing my team and my project. So there's more responsibility there, and I think that also, beyond my spiritual practice, keeps me in check.
Exactly, and it's hard to remember to look at the broader perspective of things, because, like you said, people quickly take whatever shot they can get to become rewarded with a like or a retweet, whatever feeds the algorithm. And the ones that are as unbiased as possible, like the comments that are unbiased and constructive, doesn't get engagement. And I'm like, that makes perfect sense. Why is no one saying what that person is saying? I'm like liking that post. It's just
right.
Doesn't get anywhere. And it's sad, because even people that I follow that are like, top influencers in crypto, who are good, and for the most part, they get caught into it too, just being negative and unhelpful. And I'm like, what you say about crypto or Ethereum is great. Like, it's logically and rational, it's perfect rationality. But then you go ahead and just start telling people to like delete their account, and they just shouldn't be here. And I'm like, all right, it's not helpful. It's not going to help anybody. But then I don't know. It's like, it's part of the reason why I started Wholesome Crypto, right? Is try to get people more on that side of, talk to them as if they're right in front of you, and see how you would actually react.
That's a really good point. I think that was something that got me tripped up with my team when I was still just a community member. Is like you forget there's a human on the other side of that, and Twitter is really powerful in kind of dehumanizing the conversation.
Yeah.
There's that stat, I think it's like 80 or 90% of communication is nonverbal. So when you're missing all these like subtle things that don't take place when you're just keyboarding at one another, it definitely affects the conversation. And I agree with that. I think recognizing that, and just hopefully championing the idea that people have like an opportunity to do more work on themselves. It's becoming a bigger problem, that I don't think people are willing to have conversations with other people that they don't agree with. And generally when that happens, that's how things get solved, is like through conversation and understanding other people's perspectives. And so when, all this censoring and shaming and all this stuff kind of goes on, it detracts from that. So, I don't know, hopefully, some of these new Web3 products that are getting built, like Farcaster and Lens and whatever else that the conversation starts rolling into as Web3 gets built out. Hopefully it's inspiring more of that and less of what happens on Twitter.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I see that in Farcaster happening. As you're working in Web3 now, I always like to question or wonder, how does your family and friends view your work? Do they understand what you're doing, or do you kind of just say, I'm working in crypto and don't bother me with too many questions?
Yeah, I've tried to explain it in a way Like, what's the
It's
phrasing that
hard.
like a normie would understand?
This is
Yeah,
advice
and
for me.
yeah, I didn't really understand the whole normie stuff until I went home for Christmas last year, and I tried to explain what I was doing, and I just got these looks on my face. Like, one, they thought what I was doing was a scam, that I was like working alongside of Sam Bankman, and then
Oh man.
yeah, and then another part of it was just like they just didn't understand it at all. And pretty much what I try to tell them now is like, there's just like money. It's the intention of what people do with it. So like, there's people doing good things with money. There's people doing, things that are not so good with money. And obviously negativity sells. And so like, there's been a lot of stories where, the news, just kind of rails away at the negative stuff going on. But I work in a side of crypto that is trying to change the perception of crypto for the better by doing some really good things with it. So I guess that's the best way I can explain it to people.
Do you ever intentionally put yourself out of the crypto bubble to kind of ground you into reality of mainstream?
Yeah, I think the holidays are really good for that. So like, going home and talking to people that have no idea what anything is about. And
It makes you
yeah, just
realize
having these like,
things.
yeah, totally. And, I bring that back to conversations that I'm having with people within our ecosystem. Like they're writing all these things about, oh, let's bring on the next billion users. And, they write these articles that talk. There was a really good post the other day that just talks about how we're super, we're really, really deep in using our own lingo. But then we talk with that lingo, we're expecting people from the outside to like come in and feel welcome and warm. And it's like, there is a giant wall or learning curve if somebody wanted to get involved in this space and really understand it beyond just a superficial level. And we're not doing ourselves any favors, yet we're having all these talks about, oh, how are we going to bring on the next billion users? And it's just
Yeah.
completely going over our head. Like, between the UX issues and the communication issues that I think our ecosystem has to be able to do that. So I think we'll get better with that in time. But yeah, it's kind of funny right now that I think everyone in our ecosystem is just kind of drinking its own Kool-Aid and not seeing the bigger picture.
It scares me sometimes. I'm like, we still have to figure out UX before we can do anything further, but there's
I
enough.
had this conversation the other day. This guy was like, I created a meme that was pretty much dunking on all these talks about bringing on the next billion users. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, we have all the rails now. Like, why can't the next billion users be brought on? I was like, man, I just had to sign 3 transactions on my MetaMask wallet to trade 1 token. And then I had to do another couple transactions just to like move it from an L1 to an L2. Tell me how somebody who has no idea anything in what I just said is going to be able to do all that. And he's like, oh yeah, I guess I kind of see your point. But it's like, they're not thinking about this because they're so deep into the knowledge that they already have that they don't understand. People do not understand this stuff at all.
And if you just use the wrong browser, it's also game over. It's just like I made a TikTok like just me going through using MetaMask and Chrome is just not recognizing it. I'm like, it's right there. Why don't you see it? I'm have it
Yeah.
installed in my extensions. It's not it's user friendly enough for maybe us to get it, but it's not mainstream. Even going on Coinbase itself, that's the best it's gonna get for now. And that's still a little bit
Yeah,
difficult. It's still kind of scary looking at those charts as like the first thing you do when you enter crypto. It's not
totally.
super intuitive until people get paid in crypto. Like your salary job gives you an option to get paid in like USDC or Ethereum or Bitcoin, whatever it is. Like that's when people will start really gravitating towards it. Until then, it's still an investment vehicle.
Yeah. And I think once there's actually D apps that go beyond DeFi and I mean, there's some right now, like, different storage solutions and stuff, and those are getting built out. But I think like once some like really killer apps are up and running and it like the crypto side of it is extremely smooth to where you barely even notice that you're using crypto. That's when I really think it'll take off as well. And hopefully some solutions are coming around the corner with all that, but we'll
Exactly.
see. Yeah.
So and now you're in So we'll go back into your times line. So you're 2020, 2021, 2022. You're in Golem. When did uh, Octant come to life? How was that born, and what is it?
Yeah. So first to describe Octant, um, there's a lot of different aspects to it. So I think that the easiest way to understand it is it's a project that aims to elevate the ecosystem and on a couple different fronts. And so um, the first front is funding of public goods via community decision making. So the community is able to leverage a matching pool should they want to be able to donate to different public goods projects. Another mid to long term goal of the project is to be able to experiment with different tools and tech to figure out what kind of coordination mechanisms actually work. Because a lot of people talk about this right now. The setups for the vast majority of DAOs is like a snapshot and a multi-sig. And I think a lot of different ecosystems are really, they use what is known and comfortable rather than going and experimenting themselves. So the Octant project would really like to figure out some more like a wider variety of things that work that can contribute to better decision making of communities, to contribute to higher voting turnout. A lot of different things that plague DAOs at the moment. Octant would like to be able to solve that in a way by having empirical data of what works and what doesn't work. So experimenting on one side and funding of public goods on the other side is what the project is about. And so how it all got started is Golem back in 2016 had one of the most successful crowdfunding rounds that there was. It was, like I said before, it was a round that took place before the ICO mania in 2017. So they raised 820,000 ETH in 30 minutes and have been sitting on that treasury ever since. As I also alluded to, back in 2019, the project, because it was sitting on so much capital, decided to split so that they could divide and conquer, so to speak. Taking on more ideas and initiatives without distracting from the core or the initial mission, which was a peer-to-peer marketplace for computing power. So that's how Golem Foundation got started, was to look into other avenues to enhance the GLM ecosystem besides that initial project. And so proof of stake has always been, something that's been talked about for a really long time. And with Golem Foundation sitting on a really large ETH treasury, when proof of stake actually came to fruition, that's when things really started to heat up for Octant. We had some ideas about it initially, but until proof of stake actually came out, we weren't going to be able to run with anything. And so the idea really started to pick up steam, I would say, last year around August of 2022. And then as we got closer and closer to proof of stake, things really started to move. And then, we were able to successfully test 64 validators back in June, maybe July. And then once we realized that our over-the-top security setup with CubesOS hardened boxes for our solo validators worked, that's when they threw the rest of the 3,125 validators, I think, that we have online right now into the queue. And so they went live in August, and that's when Octant launched. And so we're running through the first full round of Octant right now. The first epoch which generates rewards just closed back on October 19th, and now we're into the first allocation window when users get to decide where they want their funds to go.
So can you explain to me, as a new user who's has, I guess, some extra Golem from the I guess ICO, and then or the fundraising, and then wants to participate somehow in public good, what would my step-by-step process be? I'm logging on to Octant app, and what would I do? What would it look like?
So if you're coming from the crowdfund way back in 2016, you might still need to migrate your token. So since Golem or GLM Golem's initial token was GNT, that was a token that predated ERC20. That's how old we are. So we had to, because we wanted to be able to have our token participate in DeFi and a lot of other things that weren't really possible with the initial token, we had to migrate that token from its old setup to ERC20. And so there was a migration that took place either in 2019, 2020, somewhere around there, that it moved it from the GNT token to the GLM token. And so if you haven't done that yet, there's still like around 20 to 25% of the token, the total supply, like 250 million tokens that haven't been migrated yet. So it's a really easy process. You just got to migrate them over. Takes about 20 minutes to do from beginning to end. But yeah, if you haven't migrated your tokens, you need to do that. There's YouTube videos on how to walk you through that. And then once you have the GLM token, which is ERC20, you can then go to Octant and you can lock your tokens into the Octant smart contract. Now, what that does for you is it generates Ethereum rewards proportional to our staking setup and relative to how many you lock in. So we have 1 billion tokens in total supply that you're going to be receiving an Ethereum reward proportional to what you lock in, proportional to the total supply. So if you lock in 1 million tokens, you're going to be getting, what is that, like 0.1% of the staking rewards that we'll be generating. So yeah, every 90 days, you're going to be receiving this reward. And then what you do with that reward is what we're really interested in. So you have the ability to keep it for yourself. There are some people who are using Octant as a passive income generator. But what we're hoping to inspire is donating part or all of that reward to the public goods projects that are participating in each round. And so we have a matching pool that is set up. The whole rewards setup is determined by how much of the GLM token we have locked into the Octant contract. And then rewards are split up into two. There's user rewards that are linear. They go to our users. And then there's a matching pool rewards that are, again, defined by the size of the pool is defined by how much of the native token that we have locked in. So right now, to give you an example, we have, I think, about 15% of the total supply locked in. And this round, we have about a little over 100 ETH going to our users if they claim it. And then we have about 228, 229 ETH that are going to be going to the public goods projects. And so it's really interesting. So we have a predefined amount that's going to be going to public goods. And so the more self-interested that users are, meaning that the more that users want to keep rewards for themselves, the more leverage the few users who end up donating, the more the multiplier is. So like if only one person donates and everybody else keeps their rewards, that one person was able to effectively leverage the entire matching pool. So, if they donate 0.1 ETH to a couple of different projects, then 228 ETH, depending on like how they, the percentages of how they allocate that also is going to be going to all the projects that they specifically donate. Now, the more you have people donating, the more it's dependent upon how all of those users end up deciding where they want to donate. And so that's why we're really excited about it is one, that this effective leverage, at least for this first round, is really, really high. It's probably going to go down next round, but I think it's like right around a multiplier of 40. So whatever users decide to donate, their donations are multiplied by 40, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the other reason why we're really excited about Octant, and it comes back more to this like idea of sustainability, and that a lot of these other platforms require you to take some capital from yourself, and then you go and donate it, and then the donations that you make are leveraged by their matching pool. You can take Gitcoin or ClearFund or Giveth, for example, and they do this quite well. Like the quadratic funding mechanisms that they have, they allow you to leverage a donation pretty well. But you have to donate, you have to take capital each time they run around and donate it. And so with Octant, it's just a one-time buy-in. You just have to buy your GLM token once, lock it into the Octant contract, and then you're going to continuously receive rewards for as long as you want to play the game, so to speak. And say you want to run through 3 or 4 rounds, and then you want to take your GLM tokens and sell them, or go and provide liquidity on Uniswap, something like that. You can do that. So it's essentially like I don't want to call it a loan, but it's you're loaning yourself the ability to play the game and receive rewards from Octant. And then as soon as you want to be done playing the game, you can take that capital and move on your merry way. So as long as the token doesn't drop in price, it's already pretty low. So as long as it doesn't drop in price, you're not really losing any money, so to speak. It's just it requires a little bit of capital to lock into the contract to play the game. But it's this idea of sustainability that we're really excited about, and couple that with a really neat way of leveraging this matching pool. We're really excited to see where things go after these next few rounds.
This is awesome because you definitely incorporate a lot of game theory where everyone can win in the situation, and especially the projects that are providing public goods. Like I looked over the Epoch finals, and I saw some projects receiving over 30 ETH, which is a significant amount of money, especially what we hope ETH will become in price and value.
Right.
That's really great, and a lot of projects that I follow are getting them, so it's awesome. Now I'm also going to, I think there's a few more days left to distribute your funds, so I'm happy to do that, and I can't wait to get that done. And it sounds like you are doing a lot of work in this, and I'm wondering, since crypto is a 24/7 industry, how are you handling yourself in this industry that's constantly asking more out of you?
Yeah. Our team has grown a little bit. We brought somebody else on to help, and we're thinking about maybe expanding elsewhere as well. I have a really good way of personally balancing work and being centered and taking time for myself. I will say that as things have gotten ramped up, I've been spending more time with work just because I'm excited about it. This is the first time I think I've had a job where I was just really excited to go to work, which sounds really foreign and strange to me, but I'm really happy with it. This past week, I was working 10 or 12 hours a day, but it didn't really seem like that.
Yeah.
But it's also helping me recognize really how valuable time is, because with other jobs, I would kind of slack off and play video games, or not really stay focused on stuff that I should have been getting done, or it could have been getting done that maybe would have contributed to better outcomes. But it just wasn't a passion of mine. Like recruiting, for example, is one of those things that it was fun, but it wasn't a passion. And so the fact that I'm in this passion now definitely helps. The fact that I live pretty close to the beach in San Diego, that helps. So staying committed to, personal practices like breathing, yoga, meditation, and then also, taking a little time to go to the beach, and, having a good group of friends around me. Just staying balanced definitely contributes to being able to execute at a high level.
Yeah, it's a tough industry to stay balanced too, because you can get so quickly absorbed and not even recognize, like you were saying, 10 to 12 hours a day. And it wasn't even like didn't even feel like it was. And with crypto, it's easy to get sucked into it all day, and you kind of have to remind yourself to take a breath and like exercise and go outside, look at the sun, smell the roses,
Yeah,
and then come back into it with a fresh, cleaner, new mindset. It's tough, but
definitely.
I'm glad you're
Yeah.
finding your way, because it's definitely needed. And for people who are like first getting into crypto, I kind of want to also know, like, what is your advice for someone who's trying to get in this for the first time?
I would say be wary of who you get your information from. There's a lot of influencers out there that are, I don't know. I watched this account on TikTok, or sorry, not TikTok, on Twitter, that is TikTok Investors, TTI, and it is just a really good way to encapsulate. If you haven't seen the account, it's like one of the funniest accounts I've come across. But it's essentially just a bunch of people who really don't have a clue of what they're talking about, giving financial advice to people. And I think that account is a really good way to highlight that social media has given a voice to everybody, but you really want to be mindful about who you are believing and who you're taking advice from. In that regard, doing a lot of research, asking a lot of questions, being skeptical, I think is a really good way to start. Because at the end of the day, you could lose a lot of money. I know a lot of people who've lost a lot of money, and I think it was just because they are eager to get in early rather than getting in and understanding the ecosystem correctly. Even that was me back in 2015, 2016. I think I let my emotions get the best of me, and which is, one of the things when you're trading, you really want to learn how to come to terms with. And when the Dow hack happened, I got really emotional about it. It really scared me. And so then I lose or I sell a bunch of ETH that ends up being really valuable later in life. So
we all have that story. We all have
that
story.
Hey, I look at every challenge or thing that's happened in my life is if you can look at it through the correct lens, it's a learning opportunity, right? So that's definitely contributed to bettering myself and how to approach things moving forward. So, it's okay. I'm still doing fine regardless. But yeah, just being really skeptical about where you get your information from. Within that regard, I would really search out people that seem like value aligned with you. Like if you're just trying to get rich quick, there's plenty of people that can help you get rich quick. You might also lose your money, but if you really want to, dive into where there's more value alignment beyond the superficial aspect of getting rich quick, then find those people. I think the Green Pill community is a really good example of that. There's other ones as well, and yeah, listening to podcasts like this one that can cover information that will give you more confidence and I guess diving into the ecosystem with a better sense of what you're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. Brings me to my next question, which is, what is your crypto pet peeve? So many, I know.
Yeah, I can't share a couple of them because it'll get me into trouble. I will say that my pet peeve is definitely people that want their hand held in asking questions when the information is right there in front of them. If somebody were to take, I see this all the time. If you were to take 5 minutes of effort before you ask a question, your question would have been answered. People really just want to be spoon-fed the information that they're wondering, and I'm not sure if it's the social aspect or if it's a laziness aspect of it. Maybe it's both. But I used to be really lazy, and so that's also my personal work is like accepting that there are people out there that maybe
still growing,
don't have.
Still growing.
Yeah. There's motivation for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully inspiring more motivation to be autonomous and being able to do things on your own rather than relying on other people.
It's a tough one too for me because I used to be a community manager and you get the same question 100 times a day, and you're like, it's right over here. It's in the FAQs, man. It's in the facts. Like just read it, and you have to. And again, I was like managing a team, so you have to like tell your team, these people have never seen anything related to our project before. Everyone's new, everyone's individual. You can't treat the system as a whole. You got to treat them as unique individuals every time. That's kind of my advice to anyone who's a community mod and trying to keep it cool and keep it centered when answering all these questions, because you just have to treat them as an individual every time. It's the only way. And if you ever have frustration, take a breather.
Oh, totally. Yeah, you said that really well, and I think in our community we definitely do that. I just I try to hold their hand now in sharing where they can find that information rather than
Exactly.
taking the extra time myself to spoon feed it to them. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah. What can people look forward to for Octant and Golem?
Well, a lot of things. So our dev team has been working on Octant V2, which has a lot of exciting features that are going to be rolling out over the coming months and years. We have some ideas about how we're going to really begin to empower the community within our project, and I'm really excited about that. Um, we'll be sharing more about that in the coming weeks. And then leadership has been working diligently on how to bring in more capital to Octant. So rewards are going to be going up a lot more as well.
Nice.
So a lot of different things across a variety of fronts that really excite me. So I've been telling everybody, like, this is just the beginning. We wanted to start off simple and straightforward, but our team is awesome. I can't give them enough credit for all of the amazing things that they've been doing. And that, I wish I could share more. This information was always something that I, as a community member, wanted as early and as quickly as possible. But yeah, we got some good stuff coming around the corner, and hopefully I'm going to get I think leadership is into this idea. Golem used to do these AMAs back on Reddit way back in the day, and I really liked it because it kind of created this more intimate relationship between the community and the team. And so I think we're going to start doing something like that in the near future here, to where the community can probe us on some of the stuff that I just highlighted a moment ago.
That'd be awesome. And if somebody, I guess, if a company or open source company, public good, wants to sign up to Octant to receive funds, what's the criteria to be able to do that?
Yeah, so checking out the docs, there's a section within our docs, which there is at docs.octant.app. There's a section in there called Propose a Project that is very open and accessible for projects that would consider themselves a public good. We're actually going to probably be refining this a little bit, because we're noticing that there are projects like Gitcoin and Optimism that are having some issues with what constitutes a public good. It's a really hard thing to balance, being credibly neutral and also protecting yourself from grifters, and
Hmm.
we're recognizing that as well. So we might be tightening our criteria just a little bit to make sure that we're protecting ourselves from grifters. But more or less, we still plan to remain credibly neutral. If you are a public goods project that is interested in getting funding from Octant, then head to our docs and check out like what the eligibility criteria is. And if you're interested, if you need more information, both Mateus and I are in our Discord regularly, so we're happy to answer any questions there.
Nice. Sweet. And then definitely I'm gonna ask the last question of, what is your favorite wholesome crypto moment? Something in crypto that happened to you or you witnessed that made you feel like you're proud and happy and like warm inside for just being in it.
Yeah, I think for me, it was the amount of support that went to Ukraine right when the war kicked off.
Hmm.
That was really cool to see a large amount of money really quickly going right to the hands of the people that needed it. And right around that same time, I saw some conversations, I forget where on Reddit, but people were dunking on crypto unrelated to what was going on with Ukraine. And it was like, here is this perfect example of how crypto can be, a net positive for a terrible situation. So I think that was a really great way of maybe opening the eyes of people who are maybe negative around crypto, and actually shifting their perspective a little bit. That was definitely like a big one for me, for sure.
Yeah, that's a great use case too, because that's living in America. It's so hard to recognize the use case of crypto just because we're able to move money. And as much as we almost want to freely and for free, um, we have a pretty reliable government that won't hold our money hostage for as long as we know. But in so many other countries, it's tough, and to move money between countries, it's really difficult. So that's such a perfect case, and it goes right to the hands, like you said, of the people that you know and trust, and that you want to give it to, without the worry of some middleman stopping you in between.
Totally. And I mean, it was even for us as a team, it was even more than that, just because the majority of my team is in Poland, and so
Mm,
they were really supportive. Actually being some boots on the ground and going to the border and helping
wow,
people there. And then also our blockchain lead is Ukrainian, and so it just it touches home a little bit more for our team, just because they have these intimate relationships with the country of Ukraine and what's going on there. So yeah, just we're really happy to see that happen, and yeah, it's definitely something I view for crypto in a positive light.
absolutely. And yeah, again, thank you, James, for joining me on this show and episode. It was great learning more about you, great learning more about Octant. And I'm excited for V2. I'm excited for what you grow into, what you develop. So thank you again, and I'll catch you around.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, man. This has been a lot of fun.